Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a recent sort of propaganda storm of propaganda, which we can tell is scripted and pushed by the globalists, and I'll come back to that in a minute, but that alleges, there's an allege, it claims as fact, that pretty much any workplace that is majority white male, straight white male, is automatically toxic to women. Now, how they arrive at that's sort of, it's all ideological, of course, but then they'll use a few sort of cherry-picked examples of that. But there are also situations of power, for example, the superior courts, parliaments, major public service institutions that are particularly influential, these sorts of things. They're really demanding that, or insisting, according to the propaganda, that as long as straight white males are in the majority in any of these places, then it will automatically be toxic. No questions needed, no proof needed, no evidence needed. They're just fucking toxic. And you've got a problem with that, you damn fascist Nazi Hitler. So let's have a look at say, there's a case in one of the Australian parliaments at the moment. Now, it's toxic to women. It's so toxic. Women are so mistreated. Beaten to death, murdered by the million. Hitlers are everywhere. So in the most feminized, richest nations in the world, where there are literally, there's just an army of people that are watching out for reporting on oppressions, and so where gender quotas are just everywhere you look, and race quotas and that sort of thing, in where women are the most protected class that they have ever been in human history. We're supposed to believe that these environments are in fact evilly toxic. Hitler is everywhere, and he's oppressing them non-stop. Now, what's the evidence to this? Well, the evidence is women are not in the majority in these places. So there you go. Toxicity straight away. That's it. Okay, that's toxic, that women are not in the majority. I mean, okay, all right then. Well, we've got that. So also, a woman got a junior sort of trainee type level woman got drunk, and then she passed out and doesn't know what happened, but thinks she might have been sexually interfered with, but doesn't know, can't prove it, no evidence, but it probably maybe did happen, don't know. Then that's it. There's the toxicity. Brutally raped by evil Hitlers. Wait a minute. She fell asleep and thinks she might have been, but she doesn't know. There's no evidence anywhere. There's no proof or anything. There was a guy who might have been with her, but it's a he said, she said. There's, because she waited a long time to make any complaint. Then there's no material or forensic or anything evidence like that. So it's kind of pretty hard to say. But is that your evidence for toxicity? Yes, Hitler, rape. But well, no. Wait a minute. What's your evidence? Let's examine this. The police can investigate it, and then the facts as they are can be examined in a court of law, an independent court of law. And if the evidence adequately and fully supports beyond reasonable doubt that there was a crime that took place, then prosecution and penalties can be issued in accordance with that crime if it occurred. But to allege that a crime occurred with the flimsiest of evidence and say, well, that proves that it's toxic to women is just beyond absurd. And the propaganda machine has been running riot on that. And other little things that mentioned. Well, women aren't the majority in the parliament, therefore it must be toxic to women. No, that's not how it works. Women are the majority working in hospitals, therefore it must be toxic to men. black people the majority in basketball, therefore must be toxic to white men. It doesn't follow. That's not how the logic works. Nice try, and maybe a great propaganda line that some 19-year-old low IQ gender studies student may fall over, but outside of that, it's bullshit, and we all know it. So, all right then, women are getting raped, and then okay, well, there's been 2 alleged rapes in 20 years, and based on the flimsiest of evidence. So, is that toxicity? Alleged rapes, and 2 relatively disturbed young women as well. We're not talking sort of people that are very happy with their lives, that sort of thing. We're talking people that are very disgruntled and disturbed. So, and then there was another one where a guy said to a woman, "Fuck off." Toxicity. Well, now this particular woman is no shrinking violet, so let's be clear that she would be giving as good as she got on those sort of exchanges. All right, well, there's another one 35 years ago where a guy said at a party where they're drunk, and then this guy and this female reporter were arguing, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to screw you." And there you go, toxicity, Hitler. Well, wait a minute. She's known this woman for her very, very vulgar manners and her very forward and vulgar approach to people. She's a journalist, for goodness sakes, and a gossip column type journalist. So she knows how to get down and dirty. Don't say she's some little shrinking violet, some innocent little flower. Far from it. Nothing like that. So what did she say to him? "Oh, it doesn't matter. He said, I'm going to screw you. That's what matters. Toxicity, Hitler." No. So really in the parliament, the toxicity that's supposed to exist, no one can really point to. They say, well, he was impatient with me. Okay, well, some people there under a lot of pressure. If they're short or impatient, then that's probably not that surprising. Now, we could say that in the parliament they should hire on merit only, instead of hiring these young frail little things that they get offended by anything. Instead of hiring them, they should hire hard-bitten administrative professionals who concentrate on getting the job done, that sort of thing. So, no, you can't do that, because this offers huge employment opportunities to young women, and then later on they'll become parliamentarians themselves. And because we've got quotas. There has to be a minimum amount of women, because the quotas there has to be a minimum amount of lesbians, minimum amount of black. So there are in fact a lot of protections and quotas and all sorts of things, but they're able to cherry pick tiny, almost insignificant examples. But if a crime's been committed, it should be prosecuted and penalties issued. No one disputes that. So this idea that it's uniquely toxic to women in these places is, of course, absurd. Now, the same thing goes for boards of directors. There are more men as boards of directors, some of them quite useless, by the way, but there are more men as boards of directors than women. So, well, that's it. Boards of directors must be toxic to women. So, well, I don't buy that for a moment. That just because there are more of this doesn't mean that it's toxic. So the whole toxic argument is ideological and just full of nonsense. So if it was proven to be so, and then that standard of toxicity should then be applied universally. And I've sat in had to sit in meetings where there are angry feminist ideological fanatics sitting there railing about all sorts of ridiculous things, and they're allowed to throw their weight around, scream and shout, randomly accuse people of all sorts of things, point fingers and question. "Oh yeah, what's your view on this? Yeah, you just want women in the kitchen, do you, you Nazi?" You get all that sort of stuff. Well, why isn't the toxic workplace applying to them as well? Why is that standard of toxicity applied elsewhere? But of course, it's only applied in one direction, against straight white males, which is how the globalists want it. A parliament that's full of black lesbians would be much easier to control and influence than a parliament of straight white males that are committed to being the elected representatives of their constituents. I mean, those guys are going to stand in the way of globalization. They have to go. So how can we do that? Well, we'll undermine Parliament, we'll shame them, we'll blame them, we'll accuse them of toxicity, we'll name call them, we'll accuse them all of being Hitler, we'll do all of that sort of stuff, and gradually we'll wear them down and we'll take control, and we'll be able to install the simple, stupid people that we need in there to do what we want, when we want, how we want. And then, if you imagine a parliament full of black lesbians or something, that they just virtue signal endlessly. And there are other articles that are doing the rounds now and being heavily pushed by the globalist media, by the way, that boards of directors that have the least number of straight white males are more committed, allegedly, are more committed to climate change issues and to race and gender issues than boards with majority straight white males. So the idea is that boards of directors of companies with straight white males are oppressors, evil fucking oppressors, Hitlers. And only when we get rid of them can we go to this unicorn nirvana of climate change and black lesbians everywhere, and the world run by black lesbian school teachers, all that sort of stuff. And so they're constantly going on about climate change is the big issue, and only boards of directors that don't have straight white males on it are going to really address these issues and gender issues, oppression of women, and so on. So this is, of course, all nonsense. It's all ideological claptrap. But it's what we see in the media every day these days. You've been fantastic today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.
Up at Cynic World in the Mounties.
Yeah.